Hey Curious, it seems as more time passes since the release of the first season of Bridgerton, it's getting more popular. As the hype around the Netflix show grows, people choose to check out what it's about, and it seems a lot of them can't help but get sucked into the plot of the show and want to know more about the family and their lives. It is also raising questions about historical accuracy and whether any of the people portrayed in the show were real or based on real life people. What things did the show get right? And was Queen Charlotte actually black? Has anyone from the royal family commented on this? And is this Netflix production more accurate than that of The Crown? Stay with us until the very end to find out some interesting facts about the Regency era Britain as well as the royal family, but before we continue, don't forget to hit the bell and the subscription button so you don't miss any of our future videos. What we have recently noticed is that people loved period pieces, shows, movies, books, you name it. And Netflix has definitely noticed it too, as they keep providing their viewers with the new shows to binge watch and fall in love with. Everyone loved The Crown, getting an intimate, although fictionalized, look at personal lives of the royal family. So what's not to love? And now has come a time for Bridgerton that is set many years before the action of The Crown. But what exactly? So a quick little history lesson for you. The Regency era was between the years of 1811 and 1820, at the end of the Georgian era. Although the show has set aside the label of being historically accurate in favor of more of a fantasy approach to the era, there is still scenes, events, and references that are reflections of real-life events and customs at the time. Okay, so maybe the string quartets at the balls did not play pop hits like Ariana Grande, but they are still very much accurate in representations of the time period. That can be contributed to the research and that the author of the book of the series, Julia Quinn, put in her work while writing them, as well as the show's historical consultant, Hannah Krieg. The idea of a marriage market where young ladies came into society seeking husbands was very much a real thing, as were those stifling and the most hard to breathe in corsets. Appearing on the History Extra podcast, Krieg explained the social situation at the time by saying that there were some very powerful hostesses, and as they were called historically, around that time had created these balls in the social season and who were in charge of managing, as you will, the marriage market and introduced eligible young people to each other and somewhat managed the flirtation between them. Another thing that was very real was the birth of an anonymous gossip columns. So yes, even in the early 1800s, it had its own print version of Gossip Girl. In those times, those scandal sheets were a way of how the world of high society would keep up with news about each other in the early 19th century. Newspapers would run columns about what was fashionable and what people of higher societies were up to. Several magazines that had existed at the time would expose romances, infidelity, and scandals that might have occurred at the time. So as you can see, Curious, it's not just the famous people of today that had to deal with the tabloids. Even during the times of King George III, that was a problem. Though obviously nowadays with technology and cameras, it's all the more compromising to be caught on camera doing something that they shouldn't be doing or something embarrassing. But the idea of gossip was always there. So chances are that there probably was a real life Lady Whistledown somewhere out there. But speaking more on the marriage market, let's talk about Prince Friedrich. There has been so much discourse in this series that has revolved around the Queen Charlotte's ancestry, about which we'll talk about in a moment, but not about this prince. In the show, he is played by Freddie Stroma, and the character was introduced in episode 3 as the Queen's nephew who is searching for a princess among the elite. And he might have in fact been based on a real-life person, as at the time there was a Prince Friedrich Wilhelm Ludwig of Prussia. However, in real life, he was the son of Queen Charlotte's niece, Princess Friedricha of Mecklenburg-Strelitz. The series has already had some kind of favorite focusing on this market for elite families of Regency society, and it does make sense for the especially politically ambitious dukes and duchesses to desire to be connected by marriage to the Queen. And since we have mentioned the Queen, let's talk more about her. Yes, the character portrayed by Golda Roosevelt did exist in real life, and she was one of the characters that were in fact real, and not Quinn's work of fiction. Queen Charlotte was born Sophia Charlotte on May 19th of 1744 at Miro in Germany, and she was the daughter of the Duke Charles Louis Frederick of Mecklenburg and Princess Elizabeth Albertine of Saxe-Hildenbrandhausen, and she was only 17 when she was sent to England to marry King George III. whom she had never met before, but in those times that was nothing surprising. And for any of the fans of the musical Hamilton, yes, that is the very same King George that we're talking about here. Though chances are he probably didn't look like Jonathan Groff in real life. Her biographer Flora Fraser had noted that the Queen had to have had a very mediocre education, spoke no English, and lacked any interest in politics, which allegedly appealed to the king. Their marriage was very quick. And here we mean that just 6 hours after the arrival in her new country, she was off to the Chapel Royal at St. James Palace on September 8th of 1761 for a wedding. It was also believed that the king had warned her not to meddle in the state affairs. In her life, though, the queen gave birth to 15 children, 13 of which survived. Their firstborn son was born in 1692 and took the title of George, Prince of Wales, and would later become King George IV. Though a fun fact for any of the musical lovers out there, the Queen was one as well, and it is believed that she had discovered the young Mozart, which has been confirmed by the Royal Collection Trust. Though whether the warning to not meddle was real or not, she did take interest in governance and had a subtle influence over the king. According to historians, for the first 25 years of their marriage, they were a happy couple. However, as time went on, her influence became more prominent as she had also had to deal with her husband's declining mental health. The show does a good job portraying her dealing with her husband's mental health as it stabilized and declined, which it did in real life over many decades, and this is why King George III was labeled as the Mad King. Though while in the show it is portrayed that Charlotte couldn't stand her husband and would constantly ask if he was still alive, based on the letters she had written in real life, she was actually very fond of her husband, and while towards the end, due to his declining health, they did live apart, and she wrote in a letter, "Our separation must be and really is equally painful for the both of us." Though a spoiler alert here, the scene in which the king regains his strength, though does not remember much and accuses his wife of ending the life of their daughter, while not confirmed to having happened at all, given his declining mental health, could have been very plausible. Though without a shadow of doubt, it is the Queen's debated ancestry that has everyone talking, and the interest has spiked in recent years. The reason for this is because there is a possibility that she could have been a mixed racial heritage, with some people even dubbing her as Britain's first black queen. Back in the 1960s, historian Mario de Valdez, a Cocom, had suggested that several official portraits of the Queen had shown her possessing distinctly African features, and as proof of this, he cited a number of first-hand accounts of the Queen that had used outdated and derogatory racial charged language, though other historians have pointed out that one of the terms used during those times referred to a person who was Muslim and not of African descent. He even traced her ancestry via 6 separate lines all the way back to the 15th century noblewoman whose own lineage leads back to the mistress of King Alfonso III of Portugal, whom many historians believe was of Northern African descent. After his Frontline series, which was published in 1999 with the findings, a spokesperson for Charlotte's great-great-great-great-granddaughter, that is Queen Elizabeth II, commented on this by saying, "This has been rumored for years and years, and it's a matter of history, and frankly, we've got far more important things to talk about now." And some have taken this as a sign that the royal family does not want to face the truth about this, and that it would have been the first time that they tried to hide something, such as was with the case of Prince John, about whom we have a video about and you can check out by clicking the link above. Though it is the allegedly mixed race heritage of the Queen that has guaranteed an appearance in the show. She does not feature in Quinn's book, and the showrunner Chris Von Dusen had shared that he was heavily influenced by that version of her history when seeking out actors to bring in the lords and ladies of the series to life on the screen, and he said that it resonated with him because it made him wonder what that could have looked like and what could have been done, as well as whether her power would have been limited because of it. It was also them wanting to explore that idea that led them to casting Regé-Jean Page as Simon Basset, the Duke of Hastings. It was their idea of combining history with fantasy. If you want to know more about Page, then be sure to check out our previous video. Another Netflix show that is based on the British royals, The Crown, is also one that took the real-life situations and mixed them with fiction. These two shows had also sparked a debate about which one is more accurate. While both have aspects of real life and fiction, it can be argued that in this case, The Crown could be more accurate as it follows actual historical events in its storyline, and only the conversations in certain events are fictionalized and dramatized, whereas Bridgerton, the whole plot is based on a work of fiction, albeit given the fact that it takes part during a real historical period and features real-life people. So curious, what are your thoughts on all of this? Do you believe that Queen Charlotte did have a mixed race heritage? Do you think it is something that the royal family would hide? What do you think of the show's version of the Queen? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and we shall see you again in the next video.